Awesome. Thanks for joining and talking a little bit about your experience in the Master of Science in Higher Education Administration program at New England College. But first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and where you work and what's your role at that institution?
Sure. Yeah. So I am yeah, obviously Austin Sorrette. I currently work as a student success coach at York County Community College in Wells, Maine. So essentially, my role here is very much student facing. It's a hybrid of academic advising and also sort of introductory counseling where we can kind of hear students' issues and their problems, be it academically or personally, and be someone that they can contact and sort of talk things out with. Or we're usually the first person to meet with the students if they're having an issue, and then we can help them get involved with, either our mental health counselors, or if we need to facilitate a conversation with a professor, or we need to put out what's called a care alert. So for anybody
Yeah.
who is struggling, and it kind of reflects on their appearance or their behavior, we can get them involved. So, um, and obviously we register students for classes and stuff, so it's a very forward-facing role. There's a lot of student interaction, um, and yeah, I've been here for about a year and a half, and it's been going great.
Great. Tell us a little bit about why you chose to enroll in the Master of Higher Education Administration at NEC.
Sure. Yeah, so I was very fortunate to get a position at NEC in the registrar's office initially. I was a journalist and in marketing for a while, and I was really getting sick of that industry. So I thought I wanted to go in and maybe get an MFA in creative writing and become a professor. So I applied for the registrar's office just to be in the school environment.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was, I really fell in love with the work that I was doing and with the people I was surrounded by, and just being in a college was just such a refreshing environment and just made me really, it made me think back to all of the great times that I had when I was in my undergrad at UNH and how much support and assistance that I got in my program. And so it just really struck me. I was like, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
this is my calling. And obviously it was a little later in life. Like I was in my late 20s, I think, when I kind of changed careers. Um, and it was definitely, the job itself was a passion of mine. And then through speaking with you and some of the other faculty, or I'm sorry, administrators at our school who had taken the program previously, they said that you would get an education that just would take your passion just to the next
Yeah.
level. And it certainly didn't fail to disappoint. I couldn't wait to, enroll in I started in September of 2019, and I was literally counting the days to start the program in 2020. So yeah, it was definitely, really it just fell in my lap. And I think that,
Yeah.
sometimes happy accidents like that are always the best things in life. So
Yeah, I agree. I believe in serendipity. So that takes me to the next question. So talk a little bit about your experience in the program. The classes, the faculty members, those types of things.
yeah, sure. It was fantastic. Obviously, not to kiss your butt or anything like that, but when I spoke to you initially, you really had a strong influence on my decision to start the program. It was really excellent to kind of talk about these things and to really, even though you're very much published and you have years of experience, to me, like it felt nice to kind of talk and feel
Yeah.
like we were equals. And you were definitely good about listening to my opinions. And that was a common thread through the entire program. Every single professor that I had in the program was always very responsive. If I had any questions at all, if I wanted to nerd out about anything that I thought like, hey, this is a cool paper, or like I'm thinking of something, an op-ed to write for the Chronicle of Higher Ed or Inside Higher Ed or something. They would always entertain me with all my wacky
Yeah.
ideas. Um, and the actual environment itself was really fantastic. The modules that NEC had offered. And it actually helped me in my current position, and I'll go to that in a second. But
Yeah.
the program was, I believe, 7 or 8 weeks long
7.
per
Yeah. Yeah.
7 weeks per term. I was taking about a class or two every term. And so, it was really beneficial to have that kind of freedom with the asynchronous environment where, I could work at NEC, put
Mm.
my 8 hours in, go back home, eat dinner, talk to my now wife for a little while, and then spend anywhere from half an hour to an hour and a half on schoolwork, during the
Mm.
weekdays, and it really was a lesson in time management. But honestly, I don't think I would have been able to do it any other way.
Yeah.
Um, and one other thing that I just wanted to point out was because that module was so new for me, in terms of the quickness of the pace and
Yeah.
taking a course in 7 weeks. That's actually been helping me a lot when advising students here because
Good.
I had firsthand knowledge of what it was like to take an
Yeah.
online full semester class
Yeah.
and an online 7 week class.
Okay.
So I was kind of able to articulate that to students, and then, that kind of helped them think critically about how they learn and how they approach the class, the online classroom.
Mm.
And, has definitely helped me point people in the right direction too. So, um, it was a really new experience, and those are really exciting for me. But it also had the familiarity of, all the professors were very
Yeah.
involved, very passionate, from all over the country, which was really cool. So, it definitely was a memorable, engaging experience.
Okay. So, what would you say would be like the top 2 or 3 strengths of the program?
Sure. I think that one of the strengths certainly is the people teaching the program and their knowledge of the industry. Again, I think with online school, I think there's a lot of stigma around like, hey, you're just giving me the material and then some
Yeah.
random person's just grading behind
Yeah.
the scenes, the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really like that. It was actually, the course material was up there in front, and all the material was there to access. But I think that what that really allowed for was for the professors to spend more time having one-on-ones with students,
Mm.
being extra responsive with their
Yeah.
emails, instead of waiting a couple of days. Like I got a response within 3 or 4 hours,
Okay.
for most general questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, I thought that that was really, really important, was to have someone who wasn't just sort of just putting a shell and then collecting a
Yeah.
paycheck. Like it was folks who were actually using the course as sort of a standard. And then, that kind of freed them up to be able to have individualized
Yeah.
attention. So, if me and my classmates had different areas of interest in higher ed, we were able to talk about those things separately and still feel like we had, a connection to someone in the industry.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the other thing that was really strong, you guys all had fantastic course material too, really. Some of the books, I actually still have some of the books on my bookshelf right now. After the intro to higher ed class, intro to higher ed administration, I got through that class and I was like, okay, I'm buying every single book. Like I'm not going to rent, blah blah blah. So I have, a lot of my assessment books are on my tablet. I have a few assessment books over here. I still have the Generous Thinking book that um, oh, I'm blanking on her name, but uh, just so like I
Yeah.
thought that the material was really engaging, and it was also up to date too. And I think that that's a
Yeah.
lot of something that doesn't necessarily get addressed in a lot of programs is, they
Yeah.
kind of recycle the same material, but you could tell that with the books that were recommended and the lessons that we were learning, that it was within 5 years. So it was
Yeah.
still like, talking a lot about the state of higher education today.
Mhm.
Um, and some of the articles that were writing, I had gone through the program during COVID, which was, obviously a really crazy time for online learning and for college administration in general. And so, I think that the faculty really did a good job of going the extra mile to be able to incorporate, articles from news sources,
Mhm.
to be able to, have us think critically about the pandemic and its impact
Yeah.
on higher ed. Um, yeah, I mean, those two factors were really made the entire thing for me.
Yeah. So if somebody were to come up and you say, should I take this? Should I enroll in this program? What would you say to that person?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would tell them no if you don't like learning, then, just get the hell out of here. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, and it's funny again, I work with a lot of people who are from a lot of different backgrounds, and most of my colleagues have masters, but I'm actually the only one here who really has like a higher ed
Mm.
administration degree. And so for good and for bad, a lot of people will come to me and kind of ask like about about certain avenues in higher ed, and they go like, is this correct? Like, is this, what traditionally happens? And it also really prepared me to again, when you and I were having our
Mm.
conversation right before I started the program, I've been able to have conversation with a lot of higher ed professionals in Maine, as well, and can actually contribute
Mm.
intelligently to their conversations
Yeah.
and not sound like too much of an idiot. But
Uh,
um, it's really for anybody who, again, not even just interested in education, but
mm.
interested in working with students, trying to create, you know, better lives for people,
Yeah.
really trying to be uh, gracious in like in
Yeah.
helping people pursue their passions, but also knowing like, when someone's in some sort of psychological turmoil,
Yeah.
or again, there's family issues that need address, and
Mhm.
they just don't know about certain resources around our community. The program prepared me for a lot of that stuff. I think that there was an incredible focus on multi-diversity and DEI initiatives, and
Yeah.
that's kind of helped me step out of my own biases and my own privileges, to be able to work with students who have different ethnic backgrounds or different gender backgrounds, or different discriminatory stuff that I have never faced before.
Yeah.
Um, and I absolutely think, even for people who, they don't necessarily think of they don't spring towards
Mm.
higher education administration as a career goal. I think one of the things that really is inspiring and kind of pushes you towards that direction is, um, just getting all that information of just how to communicate with people. And especially when you're
Yeah.
in a position of power, how to, be able to take in people's life experiences and, help them work through a problem, despite the fact that I may not be in the most relatable position.
Yeah.
So that was definitely like the number one with a bullet, like
Yeah.
exactly what I would say to someone who's
Okay.
interested.
Great. And anything else you want to add about your experience in the program?
No, I just it was a wonderful time. It definitely, I think I was on a 20-month program. It definitely didn't feel like 20 months.
Yeah.
And I think that it was really, again, it was a wonderful program for the reason being that like I just learned so much, and it really changed my life, and it changed the way that I interact with people on a day-to-day basis. But also just in terms of timing and workload, like it was a program that, again, I was a little bit worried about because I was actually planning a wedding at the time
Ah,
too, and working a full-time job. So I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but despite all the stuff that I had in my work and personal life, like I was
mm.
able to manage my school life, and work with the professors really closely, and they were super accommodating, and really helpful when I needed help. So, it kind of really touched on two different parts of my life, and
Yeah.
really made a positive impact. So I'm very grateful for everything that you guys have put together.
Okay. Austin, thanks for taking time to talk a little bit about your experience in the Master of Science in Higher Education Administration program at NEC.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gavin. This is an honor. I appreciate it.